Hello students, welcome to Darasa Online. So we continue with our revision in commerce subject. My name is Mtinga Kengera, a commerce teacher. So today we have a revision on the topic import trade. Our topic is import trade. Import trade, and our subtopics will be import procedures, and documentation in Tanzania. Another subtopic will be international commercial terms. Incoterms. So today we cover the following two subtopics in the topic import trade. So import trade is the buying from other countries. A country may need to buy from other countries, as a country cannot be self-sufficient. A country needs to buy from other countries because countries differ in terms of technology, in terms of resources, and in terms of skills. And therefore, a country needs to buy from other countries. So when importers need to buy from other countries, they can buy on their own, or they can use middlemen. So buying by themselves is direct importation, and when they use middlemen, this is indirect importation. You need to follow some procedures. So there are some procedures which must be followed in importation or in buying from other countries. Now, so today we have a revision on those procedures. So the following are the procedures. Number one is trade inquiry. Now, trade inquiry, this is a written request which is written by an importer to the exporter. So under this one, the importer needs to know about the price of goods, terms and conditions, as well as method of delivery and other issues. So before an importer buys from those countries or from other countries, he has to find out and to know about the prices of those goods he or she needs to import. But also she has to know, or he has to know, about the terms and conditions of sale. But also an importer should understand about the methods of payments as well as the method of delivery of those goods. So that's why an importer should write a request to an exporter to understand those terms and conditions, prices of those goods, but also different ways in which goods will be delivered in the country. So this is very important procedure or step to be followed by importers. Another procedure or step is procurement of import license. An importer must find out, or an importer should get an import license. An importer will not be allowed to import goods in the country without having an import license. And therefore, the government has put this condition that in order to import goods in the country, importers must get an import license. Now, this is the way how the government can control importation from other countries. So the government do this purposely in order to protect local industries, but also in order to control foreign currency. So only the goods which are allowed to come in the country are those goods where the government, through the means of industry and the trade, will provide the license. So the license can be either general license or specific license. And a general license here means that when you are given such a license, it means an importer is allowed to import goods from any country. But when you are given a specific license, it means you will be allowed to import goods from specific countries. Another procedure is obtaining foreign currency. Now, in international trade, when you're buying from other countries, you need to obtain or to have a foreign currency. You need to have a currency of a country you are importing from. And therefore, an importer should find to get these foreign currency of the respective country he is importing. And therefore, he may find these from different banks which are dealing with these foreign currency. But all in all, foreign currencies are controlled by central bank in the country. So an importer must get foreign currency of a country he or she is importing. Another procedure is placing of an order. An importer should place an order after being satisfied with the goods prices and value of those goods he is planning to import, and therefore he should now place an order. So an importer will place an order basing on the quantity, quality, but also on the methods of forwarding. So that order which an importer is placing will be having those description. But an international order is called an index. Therefore, an index can be either open index or closed index, or sometimes it can be confirmatory index. An open index is an index or an order in which all the details are left to an agent who is in exporting country. So here an importer does not give any description about the goods. But when you come to closed index, here an importer give all description about the goods he or she needs to import. But confirmatory index is a type of an index which is subject to confirmation from an agent who is in exporting country. Another procedure is dispatching a letter of credit. So a letter of credit is demanded by an exporter. Now this letter of credit gives a credit worthiness of an importer. So an exporter needs to know credit worthiness of an importer, because in international trade, an importer may be in a certain country. Let's say an importer is in Tanzania, while an exporter is in Japan. And therefore, an exporter needs to be sure with the payments of the goods he is exporting. And that's why an exporter will ask an importer to open a letter of credit through his bank. And therefore, an importer should approach his or her bank to open a letter of credit. And then if the bank is satisfied with an importer, then the bank will open a letter of credit. And this letter of credit will be sent to the country of an exporter through the bank of an exporter. And therefore, after being notified by the bank that the letter of credit has been sent, then an exporter will be confident on dispatching or sending goods to an importer. So letter of credit can be either documentary letter of credit, or can be clean letter of credit, or can be revocable letter of credit, but sometimes it can be irrevocable letter of credit. And a documentary letter of credit is a letter of credit which demanded the payment will be done only after the necessary document be sent to an importer. But clean letter of credit is a letter of credit which does not require any document to be attached. While revocable letter of credit is a type of letter of credit whereby an importer's bank can withdraw or can make some changes without notifying an exporter. But irrevocable letter of credit is the type of letter of credit which an importer's bank cannot withdraw or cannot make any changes without the consent of an exporter. But in most cases, the letter of credit which is used in most cases is irrevocable letter of credit. Another procedure is obtaining necessary documents. So after an exporter being satisfied and now is ready to send the goods to importer's country, an exporter will send some documents. Now the first document to be sent is an advice note. Now this advice note is the document which shows, which gives the detail of the goods which will be sent or which are sent by an exporter. But also these documents explain or give some prediction when an exporter expects those goods to reach the port of destination. With this document after being sent, then an exporter will draw a bill of exchange. A bill of exchange being a document which demands an importer to pay the amount due depending on the goods which have been exported. So bill of exchange is written but also will be attached with other documents like bill of lading, insurance policy, but also certificate of origin. And that's why this is called documental bill, being a bill of exchange which is attached with some other documents. Therefore, a documental bill or bill of exchange can be, now payments can either be DP, which means document against payment. Under this one, the documents will be given to an importer when he gives payment or when she gives payment. So no payments, no documents which will be given. But DA, document against acceptance, this is when the payments will be on acceptance. Means after some days. For example, it can be a bill of exchange can be drawn for 30 days. And this one gives an important time for payment. But when is document against payments, those documents will be given after payment, when payments are done. But this DA, or document against acceptance, then once you accept a bill of exchange, you are given the documents, and payments will be done when that bill of exchange are mature. So that documents will remain to the bank, and after that time, then the bank will collect that money from an importer. So another procedure is customs formalities and the clearing of goods. Once goods have reached the port of destination, then an importer needs now to clear those goods from the port. And now the importer should clear those custom duties. He has to pay those duties at the port, but also he needs to follow some procedures which are needed at the port of destination. Now, under that one, he has to fill the document known as bill of entry, where bill of entry is filled at the port, showing all the goods which have been imported and the status those goods have when they reach the port of destination. But when an importer has no money to take the goods at that particular time, he can put those goods in bonded warehouse, waiting for the time when it be okay, when he will be having money, then he can take those goods. So when goods are kept in a bonded warehouse, then he will be paying some charges. So the last step or the last procedure is making the payments. Now an importer has now to make payments to an exporter. So it depends with the agreement or terms and conditions. Now if payments or if the agreements were for payment against documents against payments, then an importer should pay immediately when goods reach the country. But when the agreement were payment against the acceptance, then payments will be done after a bill of exchange mature. Now these are the procedures of importing goods from other countries. So this is how goods are imported. So when an importer needs to import goods from other countries, he or she has to follow these procedures. So my dear students, hope now you are clear with this explanation or with these procedures. But sometimes an exporter may prepare a letter of hypothecation. Now this is prepared in order to solve a problem in case an importer has failed to pay for the goods, or when an importer failed to honor a bill of exchange. A letter of hypothecation is a letter written by an exporter to the bank. Now this letter authorizes the bank to sell the goods in case an importer has failed to pay the amount due. So sometimes it may happen that the bank has discounted a bill of exchange, and therefore a bank is waiting for that money which will be paid by an importer. So an exporter gives the bank this letter of application, which gives the bank authority to sell the goods in case an importer failed to pay the amount due. Now the bank will find a customer to buy those goods in case the importer failed to pay the amount. And therefore the bank will supervise each and everything on the selling of those goods. And when the amount from those sales exceeds the amount which the bank gave to an exporter, then those amount which remain will be sent to the exporter. But when the amount the bank sold those goods will be less than the amount the bank gave to an exporter, then an exporter will send some money to cover the gap. So my dear students, a question of interest here can be asked in this way. Mr. Akil has been a local trader for some years and now is in need to operate internationally. Unfortunately, he is not aware on how goods are imported from other countries. Now, as an expert in commerce, assist this trader on the basic procedures to be followed. So the question here needs you to help Mr. Akil, who has been operating local, and now he wants to operate internationally. But unfortunately, Mr. Akil is not aware with the importing procedures. Now the question needs you to help such a person. So the help you can give, show those procedures we have revised on. So the procedures are those one. The first one, tell Mr. Akil to find the license for importing, but also Mr. Akil has to find out the market condition to know different prices in different countries and other issues concerning a market and other procedures. So help Mr. Akil by showing him those procedures. So after knowing the procedures in importation, now let's have a look on different ways in which payments can be done in international trade. The last procedure we have seen there was payment. Now, how payments are done in international trade or in importation. Now, payment method in international trade. Number one is cash in advance or cash with order. Now, this is the way when you place an order, you should send your amount for those goods. Now this you pay before you receive goods. Sometimes in international trade, exporters may need you to pay first in order an exporter to send goods in your country. So this way is safe to exporters. Is less risk to exporters, but it has more risk to importers. Because you send your money first, once you place an order, that order should go with your money. And this one is more risk to importers, but is less risk to exporters because exporters receive money first and then they send good to you. Now this can be done through payment can be done through fax or other electronic ways of payment. Another method is documental credit or letter of credit. Now this is the way in which payment can be done. Now documental credit or letter of credit, now as I've said before, in this way An exporter demands an importer to open a letter of credit. And then the letter of importer, the bank of an importer will open a letter of credit. So payments will be done through these two banks. Now a bank of importer's bank, will prepare that letter of credit, and the payment will be done through this bank, and then this bank of an importer will send this money to the bank of an exporter. So this is another way where payments can be done. Another way is documental bill. Under this one, an exporter writes a bill of exchange. Now this bill of exchange will be attached with some documents. And then an importer has to accept that bill of exchange and then arrange for payments. Now sometimes documents can be against the payments, that once you get, an exporter can send those documents to the bank which is in importing country, and then those documents will be given to an importer once he gives payments. But also documents against acceptance, once you accept the bill of exchange, being an importer, and then on that bill of exchange the date of payment is written, and therefore you have to pay basing on the date which is written on that bill of exchange. Another way of payment is bank draft. Now the bank draft here is a check which is drawn by whereby an exporter instructs his bank to pay exporter's bank through a check which is drawn by importer bank. So this is the way where two banks communicate, exporter's bank writing a check which will be sent to the bank of exporter. And the last method is bill of exchange. Now this is the bill of exchange, whereby being an order written by an exporter for payments, but this one has got no any document which is attached with the document. So it's just a written order from an exporter to the importer without having any document. The main difference between documental bill and the bill of exchange is that documental bill is attached with some documents such as a bill of lading or document of title, but this bill of exchange is a bill which is not attached with any other document. So these are the ways in which payments can be done in international trade. Or these are the ways in which an importer can pay an exporter. So a question on this part can be asked in this way. Analyze different methods of payments available to importers. Now what are different ways? So this one you have to analyze. Analyze means in each method you may give explanation. For example, in cash, in the first method, cash in advance, we said this one is more risk to an importer, but is less risk to an exporter. So you analyze in that scenario. You try to show the level of risk between importer and exporter. Who has more risk than the other? So under this one, an importer has more risk than an exporter. So you analyze each method by trying to explain. For example, when you come to documental credit or letter of credit, this one, an importer has less risk, but also exporter has less risk, because under this letter of credit, an exporter is confident that he will be paid his or her money because the bank of an importer has written a letter of credit in which show that the bank has committed that the money will be paid. So all these ways you have to analyze on each method. You show the level of risk to those importers and exporters, or you show the advantage on each method to exporter and to an importer. So that is how that question can be answered. Okay, another part to revise in this lesson is pre-shipment inspection. Now, pre-shipment inspection is inspection which is done in exporting country. This is required by the importing country. So importing country may demand this for some reasons. Now, the main parts which are inspected are value of goods, the value, the quantity, but also to see the price, but also to see if the goods have been insured, insurance. So these are the main parts in which pre-shipment inspection can be done. Now, the country or the importing country may need to know the value of those goods which are imported in the country, or the quantity of those goods which are imported in the country, but also to know the price of those goods, if it's the real price of those goods. And therefore, the importing government, the importing country may demand this in order to know these things. So, my dear students, pre-shipment inspection is very, very important to the country due to the following reasons or significance. Number one is ensuring that goods imported are of required quality. So, pre-shipment is done in order for the country to be confident that those goods which are imported are of required quality. Number two is ensuring that the foreign currency is spent well. So a country should make sure that those goods which are coming in the country and the foreign currency which is spent on those goods, the currency is spent in a good way, but also the price which is paid, so that you pay the exact amount which is required to be paid, and therefore making sure that the foreign currencies are spent well. Number three is protecting consumer against substandard goods. Now, the government may require pre-shipment inspection in order to make sure that those goods which are coming in the country are of good standard, in order to protect consumers or to protect people in the country not consuming goods of low standard. Number three is ensuring that price charged by exporters reflect the true value of the goods. Yes, goods which are coming in the country, their prices should reflect the true value of those goods. And that's why the government may need those goods to be inspected in those various areas such as price. But also, pre-shipment inspection helps to control the importation of harmful and dangerous products. Sometimes goods may come to the country which are harmful to the people or which are dangerous, and therefore pre-shipment inspection is done in order to control those harmful and dangerous goods to come in the country. But also, it ensures that goods are fully insured. Pre-shipment inspection also needs to know if those goods have been insured. Now, before those goods are shipped, they must be fully insured. Then pre-shipment inspection ensure that those goods have been insured to avoid big losses which can happen if those goods have not been insured. Another one is it reduces the chance of an importer to avoid paying custom duty on the full value of product being imported, because after inspection the value of goods will be known, and therefore the government will be aware with those goods which are coming in the country, and therefore importers have no chance of escaping or avoiding from paying the real amount of custom duty, and therefore the government will be safe or will get what is supposed to get from custom duty. So these are the significance of pre-shipment inspection. So the government of importing country require these for these advantages or significances. So the government always, or sometimes, not always, sometimes may require these for this purpose. So after this, you can have a question on this part. Now the question is, elaborate the significance of pre-shipment inspection to the importing country. Now what are these significance? We have explained this significance. So a simple question like this will be answered in that way. So you need to understand what does it mean by pre-shipment inspection, and then elaborate all those significance which we have revised this time around. So after that, let's have a look on international commercial terms. Now, international commercial terms or Incoterms, this is price quotation, terms and conditions in international transaction. So traders, being importers and exporters, should agree on different price quotation, but also they should agree on different terms and conditions. When an importer needs to import from other countries, they have to agree on the prices they will pay and what other conditions. Now, who will transport those goods? Will be an importer or an exporter. Who will pay the charges for loading? Who will pay carriage charges? So those are issues to be agreed before you buy those goods from other countries. So international commercial terms, as I've said, these are different price quotation terms and the condition in international transaction. So you must agree before so that you avoid some contradiction between a buyer and a seller. So what are the importance of international commercial terms? Now, the main importance of this, number one, is it helps to identify the duties and obligations of each part. So under this one, each part being an importer and exporter know the duties and obligation. So an importer will know his or her duties and obligation, but also an exporter will know his duties and obligation. But also, they indicate the lines of demarcation of duties and obligation between an exporter and an importer. So this one helps to draw a line of demarcation. Now this is an exporter, and this is an importer. So international commercial terms indicate a line of demarcation that an exporter should do this, this, and this one, while an importer should do this, this, and this one. So it shows a line, or it indicates the line of demarcation. These duties are supposed to be done with an exporter, but these duties are supposed to be done by an importer. So it shows, or it indicates a line of demarcation. But also, they are governing the method and the responsibility as well as accountability in affecting payment of costs to be incurred. So it will be known that an exporter should pay the following, such as maybe he can pay carriage charges, he can pay or she can pay loading charges, or an importer should pay either the carriage charges, if not an exporter, carriage charges, or an importer should pay the insurance, or an importer has to pay the unloading charges or warehousing charges. So it shows who has to pay what. Exporter should pay this, and importer should pay this. So once you agree on this, then there won't be any problem. So let's have a look on some of the Incoterms. Let's have a look on the sum of Incoterms. So number one is fall or free on railway. Now what does it mean? Now fall or free on railway. Now this means that the price you are paying as an importer will cover all the costs at the point where goods reach in railway station in exporting country. So an exporter should incur all those costs from the factory to the railway station. Now from there, an importer should incur other costs, like costs of taking those goods to the port, and cost of loading, transportation costs, and other costs. So when you come to first, now this is free alongside ship. Now under this one, an exporter should incur those costs till goods reach along the side ship. It means at the port. So it means the price an importer pays cover all costs, including these costs of transporting the goods from the factory to the port. So it means the price will cover all these costs, taking the goods from the factory to the port, but in the country of exporter. Now FOB here, we mean that free on board. So this one means that the price an importer pays cover all the costs till the goods are packed in the ship. It means an exporter has to do all the issues from taking the goods from the factory to the point where goods are loaded in the ship. and then an importer will start there. The costs have been covered by an exporter till the goods have been loaded in the ship. Now from there, an importer will start to incur other costs. When you come to C and F, now this one means cost and freight. Now it means the exporter has to cover all expenses, including carriage charges, loading charges, and other charges except insurance. So the price which was paid cover all those costs. So it's the duty of an exporter to cover the carriage costs, loading costs, and the freight costs, except insurance. But when you come to CIF, now this one, it means an exporter should cover all the costs, including costs, then insurance, and freight. So under this one, it means an exporter should cover all the costs, carriage costs, loading costs, but also recover the insurance and the freight charges. So it means an importer will start paying after goods reach the port of destination. And now the importer should incur those other costs once goods are reached in the port of destination. So after this, there are other Incoterms, but for this revision, we cover these, and then as a student, I'll give you an assignment to work on other Incoterms. Now let's have a question which will help us to understand this concept clearly. Now the question is, J&J Enterprises of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, imported 200 personal computers from Japan, and the costs were as follows. The ex-factory cost was 500,000 per computer. The cost of delivery to docks of harbor in Japan was 600,000, and the loading expenses at docks were 10% of first price. The computer were insured at 10% of FOB. Freight charges up to Dar es Salaam port were 5 million. Now the question is, calculate the following: first price, FOB price, C&F price, and CIF price. So you have been given a question of that nature, that J&J Enterprises, who are in Dar es Salaam, which is found in Tanzania, imported 200 personal computers, and each computer costs 500, and this 500,000 is a cost ex-factory cost. It means it's the cost from the factory, but the cost of the river to docks of harbor in Japan is 600,000. Now the question needs you to find first price, now first price, as I've said before, first it means free alongside ship. It means this price will cover even the transporting those goods from the factory to the dock of harbor in Japan. So now here I have to calculate Now the question says, number of computers were 200. Number of computers. $200. Now each computer costs 500,000. Now in order to get a cost of this computer, you have to multiply 500,000 times 200. Now this is simple mathematics. Now here you get 100 million. Now this is the cost of computer from the factory. But first means the price include the cost of transporting those goods to the dock. And the cost of transporting those goods or deliver those goods to the dock is 600. So here you have to add with 600. And therefore, first price will be now this is first price. You have to multiply. You take the cost of each computer, which is 500, number of computers 200, and then you multiply, you get 100 million. But also this price includes the cost of delivering those goods to the port. Now the cost is 600, so you add. So first price is 100 million 600,000. So this is first price. Hope everybody is okay with this calculation. Number two is, after getting this figure, you need to make sure this figure is somewhere because you are going to use it. So FOB price. Now under FOB price here, FOB. It means the price here includes the costs of loading in the ship. So in short, you take first price, you add with cost of loading costs. Loading costs. So under this one, you have first already. But the question says, the loading expenses at dock were 10% of first price. So you should calculate 10% of first price. Now you have first price here. First is equal to 100,600,000. You multiply by 10%. So here the answer will be, now this is 10% of first. So the question was, the explanation here was the loading expenses at dock were 10% of first price. Now this is not the answer. This is just 10% of first. Now you have to add. Now this is first price. And therefore, you have to take that first price. You add with the loading cost, which is, now this is the loading costs. Loading costs, which is 10,060,000. So take 100,600,000. You add by 10,060,000. Now, after adding this one, then now you have FOB. Free on board price will be this one of 200 computers. So when you add this one, you get this figure. When you add FOB will be now this will be our FOB price. So as you can see here, you have first price of that 600,000, and FOB price increases. As you can see, FOB price will increase, will be greater than our first price. Now another Incoterms you have to calculate is C and F price. So this is very simple. Under this one, C and F price. Now it means you include all the costs, like those costs of carriage, loading. So it's very simple. Just take the FOB price, you add the freight charges. Now the issue is the loading expenses at dock were 10% and the computer were insured that amount, but freight charges up to Dar es Salaam port were 5 million. So it's very simple. Just take a FOB, then you add the freight charges, which is 5 million. Now we have FOB, which is plus 5 million. So the answer is simple here is 1 now this is for C and F price. Now C and F price will be this one. So CIF here it means you have to add the insurance cost, which is the computer were insured at 10% of FOB. So calculate 10% of FOB, then you get the insurance costs. So this one will be your homework to calculate CIF. It's very simple. Just find 10% of FOB, then you add with this figure we have obtained here. So my dear students, let me give you an exercise which you'll try to do so that you can be more familiar with this concept. So an exercise for you is explain the following international commercial terms or Incoterms: CIFI, CIF and E, CIF and C, CIFFO, and Franco. So have a revision on those. Try to work on those Incoterms, and I'm sure you'll be much comfortable when you practice on this one. Now this calculation needs more practice. Make sure you don't leave this. Try to exercise or to practice on your own. Then you'll be very, very comfortable with this topic. Hope you have enjoyed this lesson. See you next time.